It's August, officially the middle of the summer, and we've got a problem.
This farm is a hot mess, literally. We've got seedlings that still need to be transplanted, veggies to harvest, and we need to start more seedlings to overwinter for next year before it's too late.
On top of that, our dahlia season, the busiest time of the year, is about to take off.
We need to make some decisions and pull things together if we want to keep our farm going. But before we can do any of that, we've got to address our irrigation issues and free up some time to get some work done. Let's do it. We're Rob and Kristi, and we're on a mission to cut ties with the traditional 9-to-5 suburban lifestyle.
And instead, follow our dreams of building a home, farm, and life in the Pacific Northwest.
Rob has spent over 2 decades in education.
And Kristi is a psychosocial researcher who has dedicated more than 10 years to studying people's experiences with creating meaningful lives.
We decided to put that research to the test, break free from living in a comfortable middle, and say yes to life by becoming our own experiment in cultivating a life well lived.
What we lack in qualifications and skill, we more than make up for with enthusiasm and grit.
So we're starting from the ground up and documenting the entire journey as we go. Okay, so here's the problem. Back in April, Rob got COVID for a second time, right at the height of our spring season. We had summer seedlings that need to be transplanted, tulips and daffodils to harvest, bouquets to make, and beds to prep for planting. There was just no way to get it all done, so we had to adjust and change our plans. Since we're primarily a dahlia farm, we refocused all of our energy on making sure they were the priority. Everything else went on the back burner.
And since then, we have been playing catch up big time.
But that has to stop because it is going to derail next year if we don't get a handle on this. The main issue that we keep encountering is that we're only 2 people and there never seems to be enough time. So we're always looking for efficiencies and ways to free up our time to do other work.
Irrigation plays a huge role in that.
We have to automate our watering, but right now we're even behind on that at the moment. So today we're going to set up drip lines on our grow bags.
A couple of months ago, we shared an episode about our experiment with grow bags.
We wanted to see if it was a good idea for growing dahlias, so we put a little less than 1/4 of our tubers,
96 to be exact,
into the bags versus our primary method for this year of raised beds.
Since you don't want to water dahlia tubers before they're sprouted, we hadn't set up the water lines yet. Then they sprouted.
But again, we've been behind. But we can't keep watering them by hand or with a sprinkler because once they start blooming, that can cause all sorts of problems.
So let's get some water on these plants.
Okay, so there's a few ways that we could go about this, but what we've decided to do, because these bags are packed in so tightly together, is to basically treat them like a raised bed. But the first part of that is getting the water up to the height of the top of the bags. So the first thing we need to do is run our distribution. So distribution is like the main water that comes from the faucet out to the beds. So it doesn't actually water the plants, it's just bringing the water to the area where the plants are going to be watered. And we left a bunch of it coiled at the end of our beds last year, knowing that we were going to need to do this. So there's like a bunch here to work with. But because we think that there is a possibility that we're going to want to turn the water off to the bags earlier in the season, then we need to turn the water off to our beds that'll be overwintering next year's blooms. Then we want to put in this switch, and all it does is just allow us to shut the water off in the distribution line so it can't continue on. So basically like this part wouldn't be watered. So this is a pretty easy job. We're just going to cut the distribution line with my garden shears, put in this splice, and run over to the bags. Okay, now that we've got the switch in place, we're gonna run the distribution line a little bit further over to the bags, and we're gonna put in this T fitting, which will allow us to then put in a short section of distribution line up to the height of the bags, while the rest of it continues on down. The most important thing to know when you're attaching the distribution line to a fitting is that the tubing needs to go up over the small hump inside the fitting to make sure that it's a tight fit. Once the tubing's fully in place, then turn the collar down over the top to lock it. Okay, so here's all the components again. So we have the main distribution line that's running for the entire beds, which is going to continue on down that direction. Then I put in this short length just to raise it to the height of the bags. And then this little extension, which covers 3 bags, will finish it off at the end. And this is where our tubing will connect and run down to water. And the way you finish off the end is pretty easy. It's just this little figure 8. And we just fold it over at the end, and that's all it requires to keep the water inside based on the pressure.
Now that all the distribution lines are prepped and we have the drip lines laid out, all we have to do now is attach everything and make sure they're good to go.
Okay, moment of truth. We're gonna turn the water on and test it and see if all those fittings hold up. We use an app to control all of our water, and I'll link it down below. It's super easy for timers, and it goes right on your phone and it makes things just so much faster and smoother. So I do have to get a little bit closer because we're far away from our Bluetooth, so I gotta get over there to turn them on.
And this is the most exciting part of the entire experiment, to see if something's not tightened enough, if we'll see if it pop out or something.
This is the most dramatic, exciting part of
both.
all farming.
Big one. So it worked.
And you know what's kind of crazy is that we've been noticing as we've been working out here that there are dahlias that we thought were duds that are just starting to sprout, which is insane because normally our dahlias sprout in like 2 weeks or maybe 4 weeks for some of the varieties that are a little bit slower, but it's been over 2 months and some of them are just starting to break ground.
Grow bags in our experiment.
What?
It's a wasp. He's stinging me.
Go take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. No. Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. Honey, take your shirt off.
So one of the hazards of working outside is you got all the little critters out there. So yes, it was a yellow jacket sting. About a minute earlier before I got stung, I saw him and made kind of a comment about him. You probably heard me. Not a big fan of yellow jackets. Love bees and everything, but just let them do what they want to do. It was really strange. We weren't harassing it. It just kind of came over and decided to give me a sting.
So I think the lesson we can all take away from this project is never to say a bad word about a yellow jacket when they're in earshot, because they will get their revenge and their pound of flesh.
The way I see it is I was just speaking the truth and he proved his point, or actually my point, with his point.
Definitely the least fun part of doing this particular project. But where we're at right now is we've reached a cutoff point for the 2023 planting season. There's not much more that we can actually plant into the ground and harvest in this season because we just don't have that many weeks left until our first frost. So now it's about recognizing that we've done all that we can and shifting our energy to invest into next season.
We've been playing catch up since the spring for various reasons, and then all throughout the summer, and we were making some progress. But there comes a point, even though we haven't gotten as much planted as we would like, we have to kind of decide, okay, we need to start looking what's coming next, because otherwise we could be playing catch up forever.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't achieved everything we wanted, but also that's okay, because if we take what we've learned and then we make, we apply that to next year, we make next year bigger and better, then there's still value in this whole process. But it's basically like you reach a crossroads where you have to decide to let go of one thing in order to reach for the next thing. And I don't know, it doesn't really matter if this is applying to where we're at in farming, but I think it applies to so many things in life. And it's hard when you're not, 100% successful at your vision or your expectation for how you thought things would go towards your goal. But ultimately, if you just kind of keep holding on to that and keep trying to pour good money after bad, right? So continuing to plant doesn't actually serve us at this point because we'll never make them to harvest, with the exception of sunflowers and stuff like that. We still succession plant those every week for another month. But there's not much more that we can do with the season that's left. But if we continue to hold on to that vision of having everything fully planted and all the things that we wanted to have done, then it'll do more harm than good for us, coming next year.
That whole concept of giving up or not continuing when you have a goal is really hard for me. A lot of my hobbies that I pursue and just things in my life, I've been successful because it's about not giving up. It's always taking that next step, even though you feel like you can't go further. So whether it's climbing mountains or running ultra marathons, or even me, getting through grad school, there's moments where you just keep going. So sometimes it feels like, oh, wait a minute, I'm just not, I haven't hit my goal yet, but I'm not continuing with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between persevering and cultivating grit and sticking with something towards a goal versus letting go of something. And I think that the difference there is, if you're keeping your vision at the forefront of your mind and you're thinking, this is the thing that I want to achieve, then there may be things that that either there are things that move you closer to that vision or further away from it. You want to let go of the things that are getting in the way or becoming obstacles to you achieving that vision, and that's where letting go comes in, which is completely different than giving up. Giving up is, not trying to reach the goal at all.
Yeah, when I hear giving up and letting go, the two main differences for me is giving up is more about you want to stop because it's hard and you don't want to do hard. Letting go is more reflective about what is happening and realizing it actually makes more sense for that ultimate goal to stop doing this certain thing and kind of pivot. And that is what to me, there's a big difference between those two things.
And honestly, letting go is often the hard thing to do, right? To be able to have that sort of self-discipline and be reflective and honest with yourself to say, this is the time for me to let go of this thing that doesn't serve me or doesn't move me closer towards the vision that I have for my life or my farm. And so like ways that, this maybe plays out in life is, I know for me, it definitely played out in my job, right? Staying too long at a job because I wanted to sort of see through the vision that I had or the ways that I wanted to accomplish things, but it wasn't helping me move forward. It's kind of keeping me stagnant and keeping me in a place where I really no longer wanted to be. Or like people experience this in relationships, right? Like staying too long in a relationship that is no longer
Healthy and serving both individuals.
Yeah. So I think that you've got to reach a point where you say, I've done as much as I can with this, even if it wasn't everything that I wanted or planned or expected, and then be able to let go and start on towards building the next thing. And that's really where we're at with the farm. And it is a challenge for sure, because of course we had certain expectations for how we wanted things to go this year, and we are still going to have a beautiful season. I mean, there's no question. It's just we had it in our minds that it was going to go a different way. But now we can shift our energy into building out next season and making it what we want it to be, instead of just continuing to spin our wheels in a place that doesn't serve us for this year.
And our time and energy is going to be better spent doing that focus, because the one thing that doesn't stop is the seasons. They continue to change, continue to move, and so sometimes you do have to adjust when you are working with the seasons in that way.
Mother Nature does not wait.
Yeah. So at this point, we are looking at all the great things we have grown with over the last year on the farm, and learning from the things we didn't achieve and the kind of mistakes we might have made, and now refocusing to the next stage or the next season of farming.
In just a matter of days, our dahlia season is going to be in full swing. Things are just already starting to go crazy, and we're going to be working really hard to get our crops into the ground to overwinter for next year. So you won't want to miss what's coming next. So go hit the subscribe button and make sure to stick around and see how this journey unfolds. And remember to dig deep, cultivate those big dreams in your life, and grow a life well lived.
Thank you for watching.
Never to say a bad word about, what are they called?
Yellow jacket.
Yellow jacket. Shoot, okay. What do you have in your pocket? You have snacks? Did you bring snacks to filming?
I always have snacks. I have snacks always. That's why I like cargo pants. People make fun of them, but I have the snacks.
You're this like crinkling wrappers in your pocket.
I have snacks. Do you not know me? What?
Okay, here we go.
Playing that catch up, and we need to start focusing our energy elsewhere.
I was paying attention to the dog.
I do that all the time. It's coming at us.
I know.
He's throwing his voice. Once again, it's there, and then it's over there, and then it's over there, and it's the same one.
There he is.
Look how small it is.
Oh, it's a chipmunk.
It's like this tiny. And he's screaming.
The chipmunk, isn't it?
Or is someone else upset about the chipmunk? I don't
He's
think
got
the
a little
chipmunk
tiny
is.
tail.
I don't think he's the one screaming.
Oh.
Oh, there's things down there.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know.